I think a tariff is a tool that can be used to accomplish certain objectives. And I think the president's objectives are important. So one, we have unfair trading relationships with various countries around the world where they charge a higher tariff on our goods than we charge on theirs, or they have other practices that make it very difficult for U.S. products to enter their market. President Trump is America first. He doesn't like the country being taken advantage of, and he wants to fix those arrangements. So that's one way you can use a tariff. What I thought most of his effort would be so-called reciprocal tariffs. You're charging us 10%, we're charging you nothing. You know what, we're going to charge you 10, and if you don't like that, if you'll take yours to 5, we'll take ours to 5, and we'll use this tariff as a way to kind of create fair trading relationships. That's one important potential use of a tariff. Another one is, the world has become, I would say, riskier, geopolitically and otherwise. And we learned in COVID that relying on other countries for PPE or, the ingredients that make pharmaceuticals is, potentially threatening to the United States. So we have to be able to make certain product here that's important for the defense of our country, that's important for the health of our citizens, and relying on semiconductor production on an island off of China, that seems like a bit of a risky proposition. So we got to bring that activity here. TCMC, you're amazing at what you do, but if you want us to buy from you, we need you to build the plant here. And so another way to use tariffs is to say, hey, we're going to put very big tariffs on these important strategic assets that we need in America, and that to bring that sort of activity home. And then the third thing I would say is this question of balance of trade. Here, this is where I would say I feel like the president thinks tariff is a little too beautiful a word. And what I mean by that is, when the president got up on, as he called it, Liberation Day, and he talked about reciprocal tariffs, the market was up about 2% when he first talked about, the reciprocal tariffs, because people thought he was going to use them as a tactical device to lower tariffs. And then he put up that very famous chart, which calculated what was called tariffs, but really was a calculation of kind of the trade balances between the U.S. and other countries, and used that as the basis to say, okay, Vietnam is effectively charging us a 92% tariff, so we're going to make a fair deal with them and only charge them a 46% tariff. And that calculation, I think, is not one that it fits into my understanding of the economic world, if you will. And it makes sense to me that the United States, it doesn't make sense, let's put it this way, that Madagascar or Lesotho is going to buy as much from us as we buy from them. That's just really the reality. We're a much bigger economy, we're a vastly bigger country. I'm giving you kind of the extreme examples, but the same thing's true for Vietnam, and the same thing's even true for South Korea and kind of otherwise. And we learn somewhere in the economics class, you learn about something called comparative advantage. It does not make sense to produce T-shirts and blue jeans and baseball caps generally in America. Other countries with lower cost labor, it's a better place to make those kind of goods. So I think I guess I have trouble giving short answers, but the answer here is it sort of depends on how the tariffs are being used. And the other point I would make is you can't make changes in your supply chain overnight. When the president announced tariffs at this, very, very high level, my advice to the president was pause. You've gotten the world's attention. People had a real opportunity to feel like what the impact of these tariffs would be if they were instituted immediately. Let's pause. Let's give Scott time to negotiate deals with our trading partners, and let's set up, so that this, we can do this without disruption. The risk of what's happening now is that business people, in order to be in business, you got to predict the future, right? You got to say, how much am I going to sell next quarter, next year? You got to plan for that. You may have to make an addition to your factory. You have to hire workers. You have to make investments. It's hard to plan for the future if the future becomes uncertain. And what the sort of tariff, what war, to the extent it's become one, has done is create a lot of uncertainty. And uncertainty causes businesses to pause. When businesses pause, the economy gets weaker. And this community knows better than any other. If you're going to go to war, you want to be at your strongest and fittest. And that same thing's true if you're going to go to a tariff war. The United States has got to have a really strong economy, and you don't want to disrupt that economy. The other thing you do when you go to war is you want to work with your allies and you want to focus on your enemy. And I think we kind of launched a tariff war against 170, 80 countries at the same time, and vast majority of those countries are friends of the United States. And I think, in retrospect, we should have focused on China. So I think, we're going to get to the right place. The president has shown a willingness to adapt and make changes on the fly. And I ultimately, big believer in the country, believe in the president and his advisors, and I think we will eventually get it right.